Good morning, everybody. This is Tyler. BIM Podcast, episode number 2, your essential training guide to running. Let's get started here. Let's go. What do we have on deck today, boys?
We're going to talk about all the first steps of someone that wants to take casual fitness and just enjoys running, and they want to get marathon ready or race ready. They want to take that next step from just being a hobby jogger, going out during their lunch, going out for jogs, and they want to attach a goal to it, a race goal. So let's chat about some of the steps and best practices on how to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And this is really for anybody that is listening who maybe you haven't even run before, but you're interested to know what it takes to move from 0 to 1. This is going to be a comprehensive review. And what I'd really like to get us kicked off with is what the heck is a training plan and why is it important to follow one?
Oh, I love my Excel training plans, but I think we're going to bring this up to Andrew to actually give us an insight on a structured workout plan. I live off Excel. I just love bootlegging plans, mix and matching, but let's let Andrew
Yeah,
let us know
Tyler, you're a
about.
big fan of making the plans, not so much following the plans sometimes. So I'm going
Exactly.
to give you a few tips on how to actually follow a plan. So essentially, your training plan is going to be broken up to. There's lots of ways that you can break up your training plan, but it'll essentially be different days focused on different specific things. So there'll be recovery days, there will be threshold days, there will be the nice long run, there'll be speed sessions on the track. So you can kind of break it out into those different type of runs, all with different focuses. And all of those will kind of look a little different depending on what kind of event you're training for. But essentially, the goal is to have those key workouts that make you super comfortable running at your goal pace for that distance. And then that recovery work that kind of fills in the gaps to get some mileage to fill those gaps in between all of those workouts. Because as much as Tyler would love to just do workouts all day and sprinting around the track, that as I found out that leads to shin splints. So we gotta break it up, and there's a time and place for everything.
Yeah, that's fair.
Uh,
Now, what would be the difference between what you would suggest for somebody who doesn't run versus somebody who does run, who's looking to go from, I've ran a few 5Ks, now I want to tackle a half, versus somebody who's at the other end of the spectrum who hasn't run and is really going from that couch to 5K?
Couch potato. I love potatoes, but
I would say one of my biggest suggestions is a lot of cookie cutter plans focus a lot on distance and specific workouts. I would say someone that is on the slower end, just beginning, really, I think you should be focusing more on time on feet and just getting that training in. Because, of course, if you're going a little bit of slower paces, let's say you have a 50-kilometer week, for someone that's a little slower, that's going to be a larger time commitment. So I would just try to focus on I want to get a 30-minute run, an hour run, or let's say my goal 5K time is, let's say, 45 minutes. I want to get runs that are at least 50 to 60 minutes on my feet. So I at least know what it feels like to be on my feet for that amount of time. So I would say that's one tip that I would have for structuring training plans for someone that's really just getting into it is don't focus so much on the distance, more focus about that time on feet because that's really at the end of the day you need to know that you can be moving for that amount of time.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, especially for a beginner, understanding the time commitment versus the distinct distances that are required or any complex workouts is much more complicated. And you kind of get into that flow of understanding what the difference between a 6 kilometer run and a 13 with some pace would be after you've done a block or two to kind of get you towards a start and finish line versus that beginner really just how much time do you want to dedicate and just spend that time on your feet. I love that. What, so we all just recently did the Ottawa Marathon. What plan did you follow for that?
We followed the Fitsinger training plans. I think we all did a slight variation. We all of us did the 18 week, I believe. I did the up to 70 miles. You guys did the up to 55, 50, kind of. Well, as we mentioned, yeah, the following reality versus expectations are different sometimes.
Oh yeah.
But I would say from that one specifically, why I've done that one many blocks now. What I really like about that one, and it is a really, I would not recommend Fitzinger plans for, I mean, it is from the Advanced Marathoning book. I wouldn't recommend them for beginners, but what I really like when what I think they get right is that they get you very, well, I say comfortable, heavy air quotes, but comfortable running at the pace that you want to run the event at. And those marathon pace and half marathon pace runs, I think is something that no matter your level or what you're targeting, that's a piece that I really like and I would recommend to anyone is to incorporate a lot of sessions at that goal pace because that's what you're training for.
Yeah, those are
Perfect.
killer. Those you mark those on the calendar. No matter what I do, I'll hit those. Maybe sometimes, but those are the big ones. The big boys are you can't miss those ones, or else you kind of throw your plan out the window. I find.
I agree. And I think it gives you a lot of confidence as well when you start
Hmm.
ticking away at some of those at pace workouts. No matter what your pace is, if you can prove to yourself that you can run at your goal pace for even a quarter of your race distance early on your training block, it pays dividends on the mental game as well. The one last thing when we're talking about training plans is, of course, sometimes they get derailed. Don't get stressed out. Like for my marathon training, like Andrew said, I was following the Fitzinger 55 miles at peak mileage weeks, and in some of those main mileage weeks, twisted my ankle. It was sprained. I had to take 2 weeks off, but
Derail.
derailed completely. But if I tried to stick with the plan, I would have more severely injured myself and not gotten to the start line. So be flexible about your plan, but be strict to yourself when you're feeling good. Try to hit those miles. Cool.
I think I think we all got a little derailed this year, and
Oh,
we had to change accordingly, and we still all hit our goals. So yeah, it's not the end of the world if you miss one workout as long as you're consistent throughout.
or if
Did
you
we
miss
all hit
eight.
our goals, Tyler?
See you
I mean,
later.
technically, I didn't hit my goal either. So there's one person in this call
Oh,
that
that
hit their
hit their
goal.
goal.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, feels
That's
bad.
why that's why there's some redemption. That's why we call it redemption races, and you never stop. So I kind of like it.
Yeah. I mean, so Brian, you mentioned that this was your first big marathon block, and even before that, you did some running, but didn't necessarily have a ton of running background. You did a lot of other endurance sports. Jumping into this block, what were some of those things that you ended up having to buy or get to kind of set you up for success jumping into the block and getting into the race?
Yeah, great question. So we're going to ignore shoes because we'll talk about that next. But when it comes to the essential gear that you need for running, whether you're already running casually and you don't really have any gear, or you're somebody who's coming from another sport and you want to start, I think the number one thing is a GPS watch. It is really, really helpful to record your workouts on a watch rather than holding a phone. I know my dad is super silly and doesn't want to invest in a watch, so he'll actually carry his phone in one hand and then something that weighs equal to his phone in the other, just so that he's balanced in his strides, and that is super, super scuffed.
That is belligerent. I like that. That's the key to staying a marathoner up into your elder age.
I mean, yeah, that's why he's so, jacked in his arms. He's basically carrying weights around. But no, so I think number one is a GPS watch, and I think having an app that you can upload those runs to so that you can track kind of how you're progressing on your training plan. When it comes to apparel, I think having good running shorts or tights, whatever you're into, that don't chafe and that you're comfortable in is perfect. If you're running in the winter, you'll need gloves, hats, and potentially something reflective, because I know where we're from, it gets dark super early, and if you're out running, you want something reflective or something that lights up so that people can see you. You don't want to get hit by a car. That's really going to derail your training plan. And then lastly, sunscreen, super important. Tyler, you hear that all the time from the boss. You got to keep that sunscreen on.
I've been starting. I have completely retrained my brain. The bosses, I have multiple bosses telling me to wear sunscreen, so I have been starting to apply, but nothing over the eyebrows. Nothing over the eyebrows. I'll keep the hot takes for later, but nothing over the eyebrows, all right?
That's true. You don't want the sunscreen running into your eyes.
So,
Is there
It's a
anything you feel
tactic.
like I missed in terms of gear?
Vaz. I don't know if you want to talk about Vaz, but forget the
so
body
just can you
butter.
say the full word just so the listeners know what you're talking about?
That's true. I gotta be tame with the lingo here. It's called Vaseline. Enough with the body butter. Enough with the chamois cream. Just go with the tub of Vaseline. Just forefinger it. Boom. Scoop. Bring it over wherever you want.
And where the hell?
Like,
Yeah, where are you applying that?
so some people, the most majority between the legs. Chafe, zip zap zoop. You don't want that. Another one that creeps up on many, including I, nipples. Vaz on the nipples.
I'm
You have
dying.
to vaz it up.
The
You,
the Vaseline on the nipples is actually key, or like band-aids or some piece of tape, because I remember the first half marathon we ran together, you came out of that race with streaks down your shirt, just red down the
I
shirt.
mean, how many Tyler, based on the shaving vote last
Oh
podcast,
God.
how many viewers to get that posted in a reel and that picture? How many do you think? I
Oh.
think the
Now I
people
gotta
would love
go.
it.
I gotta go over 50 now with that. I gotta get a good at least 150 this time. 150.
Okay,
Well,
okay, I love
I
it.
got the streak. I got the streaks coming down. It's already up there, but it's got to make it to the BIM reel for sure.
For sure. Now, like people who don't run at all might not even know what we're talking about. Like Tyler's nipples, like his shirt, which you didn't train in, which I think is a great tip. Train in your race day kit.
Everything new on race day.
Except
Nothing
the
new on
opposite.
race day. Yeah.
On opposite day. Yeah, nothing new on race day, folks.
So, and if you are unlucky enough to have chafe on your nipples, they will bleed, and it is a terrible experience.
Oh,
So
it's
that's to
nice.
be
Yeah,
avoided at all costs.
agreed. I agree with that statement.
Yeah, the only other thing that I would add that I think over many blocks and doing lots of training that I think is super important is pockets. Good pockets that no like that aren't things aren't bouncing. I like to bring my phone with me for podcasts, music, but also just any emergencies. And nice big pockets where your phone won't bounce. You can stash a bunch of gels, random things, whatever. Whether that's in tights. I have a pair of Brooke Sherpa shorts that I really like, or like one of those flip belts. I use those once in a while. And I think all are good options. Figure out what you like. But I think having like pocket options that aren't like I'm not talking like basketball short pockets where it's just going to be bouncing all around. That yeah, as Tyler would say, that's belligerent. So we don't want that. We want it close to the body.
And
100%.
Brian, did you hear that? He brings his phone on runs. Isn't that something crazy?
Hey, don't get me started. But yeah, like a phone on a run is nice as long as you're not carrying it, and something that's tight to the body is definitely helpful. I think the last thing to mention is if you're really taking your training seriously and you want to train on heart rate zones, sometimes watches aren't the most accurate and they pick up your cadence as your heart rate and start to mess around a little bit with the data. So if you want a constant data stream for your heart rate, would definitely recommend getting a heart rate monitor, which has a strap around kind of your torso. They are not too expensive. I just bought one today on Marketplace for $25 used, but you can get new ones for about $50. Would recommend.
I call it my bra. I don't leave the house without it. Always strapped on. I'm
There
always
you go.
strapped.
Yeah. In winter, if you're into going to be doing winter training at all, I find wrist heart rate is actually useless. the wind, the cold air gets in there and it's just actually useless. So yeah, heart rate strap, goodbye.
Okay, I want to bring it up now, Brian. You said later. I'm listening to you. Let's talk about shoes, Andrew. I know. I'm picturing it right now. I've got like 12 pairs in the closet, taking over the closet. Let's talk about shoes. No one can just have one pair. Am I right?
Oh, absolutely not. You need a rotation. If you got closet space, you got to fill it with shoes.
Exactly.
At least two pairs of shoes for each day of the week. But no, in all seriousness, if you're just getting into it, number one recommendation is a good pair of daily trainers. Start with that. The kind of Swiss Army knife of shoes, just something nice, comfortable. I'm thinking like Hoka Cliftons. I really like Saucony Kinvaras. I know a lot of people like Brooks Ghosts. There's a lot of others. There's just to name a few that I've used and I like. Start with that. I would
Not
say,
sponsored.
what's that? Oh, of
Not
course I'm
sponsored.
sponsored, but I mean, we're all ears if they wanna reach out. Start with that, but then I do really believe in building out a rotation of shoes and getting specific shoes for different purposes, for recovery days, for speed days, for long run days. I think this kind of has like a double benefit. One, if you're running every day, it gives the foams a chance to kind of puff back up, recover from that run, just like our muscles and bodies need time to recover. Our shoes are the same way. So you're not just pounding down on that foam day in and day out. But also, it just makes running fun. Like running in a light, snappy shoe is like so much fun, as opposed to just having like this heavy, super hard foam daily trainer can on a speed day is just not as nice. And I mean, if you can make running a little bit nicer, you're more likely to go out the door every day. So I think that's a huge benefit.
Yeah, I want to add on to this point because I think a lot of people jump the gun and go out and buy the expensive race shoe on day one. It's not that important to do, especially when you're just beginning your journey. I would really recommend buying 2 to 3 good daily trainers that you like the look of, that you like the feel of, that you can rotate through. And that doesn't have to cost you that much. Look for deals here and there, but make sure the shoes are good for you. A budget of $80 to $120 for a daily trainer is reasonable and obtainable. So you can build out that inventory for about $300, whereas a super shoe with carbon plated footing and all of that will run you close to $300 alone, which I think is outrageous and does not need to be the norm, especially when you're just getting into the sport.
And then the cheaper the shoe, the more you can get.
It is true. Yeah, definitely. You don't need the super shoe unless you are, I mean, if you have the money for the super shoe and it makes you feel good, go for it. But unless you're going for pretty aggressive goals, a nice lightweight daily trainer will do the trick. I know, yeah, going to kind of like Marshalls, Winners, those kinds of stores and finding last year's inventory, or there's some online websites too, depending where you're at. You can find great daily trainers, even speed shoes, but just from last year for half the cost. So that's generally what I do to fill my inventory. And if anyone's ever wondering, oh, what do you think about this shoe? Just shoot us a message and we'll help. Because between the three of us, we've ran in a lot of different types of shoes. So
For sure. And speaking about Marshalls and Winners, like there you can find some diamonds in the rough there.
Oh,
The
they're sneaky.
Yeah, the one and only race shoes that I have carbon plated are from Marshalls. And I quite like them, and I've hit pretty much all my PRs in them. So you can certainly find some good race day shoes as well there if you're looking to kind of test the waters with carbon plated race shoes.
Runnerman Andy, let's give the viewers what they want to know. What's the shoe of choice
what are we doing?
for the race?
I,
Race day,
I
marathon.
mean,
Boom,
I
no
mean,
question.
I'm a big fan of cheat code, so I'm gonna go Vaporfly. But I also, I it hurts giving away the secrets, but I also got those for a very good deal for 125 Canadian after tax at the Nike outlet store. I'm
Fat
not gonna say the
crazy.
specific one just so that everyone doesn't flock to it, but Yeah, that's the weapon of choice.
I was in Niagara this weekend, and
Well,
and on my way home, popped in outlet, didn't find anything. I was pretty sad.
beat you to it.
Yeah, you found them all before me,
Yeah,
but that's great.
if we're talking shoes, I'm not going to recommend my race shoe, but it's a shoe that Andrew already mentioned. The Saucony Converas are a beautiful daily trainer. They're super lightweight. You have good feel to the floor. There's not too much cushioning, so they will strengthen your foot as you start to build those base miles. So that would certainly be my recommendation. If the shoe feels good on you in the store, it's a great shoe to take out on the roads.
Very
I
true.
double down on that recommendation. Love them. That and the Hoka Cliftons are, if I were to say my favorite shoes, those are my two favorite shoes right now.
Yeah, I like the
Absolutely
Cliftons.
love them.
They were on sale on the last hunt, but there is only size 15 left for all you size 15ers out there.
Yeah, that's the issue. Some of those sites, just either real small shoes or ginormous shoes.
Massive
I wish.
for Shrek.
Yeah, yeah, crazy. So as we're running around in our shoes, pounding the pavement, what do you guys generally like to do for fueling and hydration? What are you bringing on those long runs? Or any run, really?
So I think the key to fueling while you're running is carbohydrates. At the end of the day, you need to replace the energy that you're burning, and you need to do that very efficiently. There's a reason that all of the top sports nutrition brands have pretty much only carb supplements that you can consume during activity. That's not to say that fats and proteins aren't an important part of your diet, but when you're running, what you need is carbohydrates, and you need simple carbohydrates. It doesn't need to be expensive. You don't really gain too much when you go to the higher tier nutrition. Sometimes they can be easier on your stomach, but at the end of the day, simply eating gummy bears will do 90% of the efficiency for carb replacement that you're looking for.
Carb it up, baby. Carb it up. That's my motto.
Always carb it up. And I think, yeah, one of my biggest recommendations and tips is that when you're in a training block, you like even outside of the fuel and hydration of during the run, during during the training block is not the time to be like, I want to lose weight. I'm running because I'm trying to drop weight. You should be eating when you're training, getting in those carbs, and then eating to fuel your body for that next run. Post get that protein in, eat well, have fats, carbohydrates, and plenty of calories. Your food needs definitely increase when you're training. So I think more of the off season is when you're if you're trying to lose weight is when you should focus that, because during it will be when you'll be more injury prone, you'll be tired, and training will just be less fun. You'll go to a workout and you'll be like, wait, why am I not performing? And 9 out of 10 times you're under eating.
So you're telling me I can eat glizzies?
If that's your food of choice and that makes you feel good, yeah, go for it.
Hey,
You can
there's
toss it in the
carbs.
rotation at least.
Yeah, in the rotation. There's carbs in the bread, and
Yeah,
you got
exactly.
you get your veggies with ketchup. So you
Yeah,
got all the
yeah,
food groups in there.
I'm glad we're
exactly.
taking nutrition advice from Ty. That's nice.
Exactly.
So on the topic of fueling, Ty, can you talk about like how you consume your carbs during a run? Let's break this down into a few different points. At what point in length of time or distance will you actually bring out fuel on a run? And then what are the intervals of consumption? How much are you eating? How often during a run?
Hey, you know what? Great question. I used to do rule 45 on every 45, but it's kind of too soon now. I tend to bring something out, let's say if I'm going over an hour and a half. If it's under an hour and a half, I make sure to have eaten like something normal with carbs, like let's say half an hour to an hour beforehand, but that'll give me enough energy, let's say, to sustain the activity for up to an hour and a half. But let's say you're going over an hour and a half, then I look at consuming something within that first hour, and then on every 30 to 45 minutes after that, reoccurring every, like I said, 35 to 40, 30 to 45. So like if you're going on like a 2-3 hour, you start consuming at the 45-minute mark, and you kind of timestamp that, and you do every 30 to 45 after to keep your carbs up.
Yeah, and how many carbs an hour roughly? Let's say you are running a 2-hour run. How many carbs an hour are you trying to consume?
For me, it depends on the intensity. So like race, you're going ballistic, you're doing lots of carbs per hour. Depends what kind of race as well. But if you're doing like if you're doing a 2-hour easy run, I'm looking at like, I don't know, 25-30 grams a carb per, what is that, per hour?
Yeah, so if you're doing like, it would probably be about 40 to 50
Yeah.
grams per hour if you're taking kind of almost two gels an hour.
2 gels, exactly.
Yeah.
So like, but like if you're looking at a higher intensity workout, then you're looking at consuming maybe a higher carb, like higher amount of carb within that time. So you're looking at consuming maybe 40 to 50 within the hour, on the hour as well. So like, and then it could go all the way up. Like there's a lot of science papers. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a science man, but you could go up to 75. Some people even go up to 90 to 100 grams an hour. But
100%.
There's a certain threshold, I feel, that your body can actually metabolize, and the rest is just, you could get like gastric problems with that. So
For sure.
you kind of got to play with that in training too.
Yeah, and I think that's like anything, you need to learn how your body reacts to the
Exactly.
training, to the hydration, to the fueling, to the shoes you're wearing, right? It's all about feel after a certain extent. There's a lot of science that goes into it. On the bike, I'm comfortable having upwards of 110, 120 grams of carbs per hour, but running, I kind of cap out at 75 just because my stomach's bouncing around and I'm going to feel like I'm puking if I do any more than that. Yeah, really interesting. What about hydration? Andrew, what are you doing to hydrate yourself before, during, and after a run?
Generally, before, just, I mean, hydrate as normal, have lots of water throughout the day, night before, depending when you like to run. I generally like running in the evenings or late afternoons. So I'm just drinking like normal during the day, making sure I have a water bottle on me so that I'm sipping on it. And then during, again, I'm probably the same thing. If it's about over an hour and a half, I'll bring hydration with me, a bottle with me. Sometimes when it gets really hot in the summer, maybe an hour. And I really like just a hand bottle, one of the bottles with kind of a strap around your hand, and then a bottle that kind of conforms to the hand. That's what I really like. I kind of played around with the vests with the soft flasks, and I don't love that as much. The sweaty back, I'm not a big fan. So I just basically just I'll do a bottle. A lot of my runs, I'll look at these boys gurgling on their water bottles. I'll have one full bottle, probably 500 mils. Generally, when I run, I try to, if it's really hot, I'll do loops that I know there's public fountains so I can fill them up. And then once I get back, I generally just drink as much water as I possibly can. A lot of times I'm feeling like something sweet, so I might do like, some sweet drink. But that's if I want to treat myself after a long run.
Yeah. The other thing after pretty much every run that I do, that I'm encouraging Tyler to do as well, is have a little bit of protein. Like if you see yourself dipping into the sweets immediately after a run, it's important to replenish those carbohydrates and your glucose stores. But I think it's also important to give some nutrition to your muscles in the way of protein immediately kind of following a workout to start that recovery.
I think you're just
And I
trying to
almost
get me
completely.
heavier.
Wait, what was that, Tyler?
I think you're just trying to get me heavier so I could weigh more.
I'm trying to get that lean muscle to increase.
True, it's true.
I completely forgot the most important thing: pool water. You
Pool
got to
water.
get your electrolytes in.
I thought someone was
So
gonna say something.
that is definitely, especially I think as we come into the summer here, we're sweating a lot. Runs, yeah, are just you sweat, and depending if you're a salty sweater or not, even if you're not in the summer, getting those electrolytes and especially sodium back into you during the run, after the run, is just essential. So having some, either you make your own, and we can talk more about that if people are interested. We got some scientists cooking something up real nice. I think a couple of us are sipping on it right now. But yeah, electrolytes are also key.
Yeah, and again, on a budget, I think that's something always to be conscious of is how much you're spending on sport. You can simply add a little bit of table salt with some flavoring if that's what you'd like. It works to really replenish those stores really quickly. You don't need to be going out and purchasing kind of the most expensive brands to hydrate yourself better. It's really as simple as water, sodium, a little bit of carb, and then you can of course get a little bit more complex with your mixes as you learn. So let's move on to the milestones that you kind of need to tackle on your way to progressing to becoming a half marathon or a marathon runner. What does that kind of story look like?
I think tackling if you're coming from not much of a base, tackling a half marathon or marathon is a pretty big undertaking, I would say, and there's just a lot of load on your body. And I think you also need to take consideration of what the time commitment to ramp up to that in a healthy way is. Because ideally, you can ramp up and be doing like 50 to 70 kilometers, I would say, a week. I think is probably a good goal of like where you're going to be able to cross the finish line and not feel like you're completely dead. So you definitely want shorter goals and you want to be ramping up slowly. So I would say in an ideal world, and I know us runners don't like ideal worlds when it comes to ramping up our training, but if you're tackling a marathon specifically, I think it should be at least a year out. I don't know. What do you guys think as far as timelines?
Yeah, I think it's important kind of to have intermediary goals between yourself and let's say a half marathon or a full marathon. Put a 5K in the calendar, even if it's a casual like park run or something that's organized between you and some friends. And then I would actually suggest signing up for that 10K if you're really kind of coming from that beginner background, or running a 10K with a group of friends with some pace, maybe at your half marathon pace before tackling that half marathon. And I think if you are aiming to do a marathon in your lifetime, you're going to end up racing a half marathon before that, whether it's in that first block or before that first block. So I think that step comes naturally. And once you're at the point of running a half marathon, I think you've got a good kind of grasp on the basics of the sport.
Yeah, I like the nice ladder effect. You start down here and you just keep pumping up the ladder up until you get to your main goal. So like you guys were saying, go smaller, like you said, intermediate, and then go for that bingo bango.
Yeah, and I would just say like there's no need to rush it either.
Sure.
Just because it's smaller distances, if that's what you're jumping up to, distance isn't everything. I'm looking at you, Tyler. Just going
What?
longer and longer and longer, you know, you can go faster and faster and faster at those 5Ks. So I had different goals as well. So just know that the longer distances have more time requirements. So I would take that in consideration before wanting to jump into that.
Exactly. Time and money. I must say it is dollars spent versus time spent. It probably goes up as well. So that's another thing for registration wise.
Yeah,
I
I
will
agree.
say though, even local 5Ks, even those have gotten
True.
expensive. So
That is
I would
true.
say organizing it with friends, just doing local stuff, like find some friends and just get some people out is a great option because yeah, sometimes races can be pretty expensive.
I heard there's some BIM 5Ks going on pretty soon too, so we could tap into that.
Definitely. I hear that's a nice free event. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that's a great segue into kind of our last talking point, which is the social aspect of running. So let's talk about how you can run collaboratively to improve your chances of being successful at running.
Well, and I think that talking while running helps your training. So that's just it. I'm a talker, I'm a chatter. I love to chat. I don't stop talking, so running while talking, amazing.
It's true. And what Ty's referencing is something I'm sure we're going to explore this, which is training zones in the future. But
Yeah.
like zone two, which is kind of conversational pace running, should be about 80% of your volume. That's kind of standard practice for most training plans. So if you find somebody who matches your pace, that you can go on runs with, chatting the whole time. Ty, we've run hundreds of kilometers together, just shooting the shit.
Chatting it
It's
up.
it's one of the best parts about the sport.
Exactly. Andrew, coming in, well, living in a big city, what do you think about run clubs? Is there some go-tos? Is there some faux pas? What do you think?
Yeah, run clubs are great. Yeah, I think going to out to run clubs, if you're, wanting to meet people that are like-minded, like have the same hobbies that you have, and just want to make new friends, I think run clubs are a great option. Just look locally. Generally, there will be some close to you. They're great for social events, finding people to hang out with, even outside of running, but also just motivation and accountability. As soon as you tell people your goals and say, I'm training for this at the end of the summer, people get excited about that, and being able to find someone that has a similar goal to you. You guys can kind of be on one of our favorite apps, Strava, which we can get a bit more into, and just follow each other's trainings, hype each other up. So it's just nice to be doing these hard things with someone else that likes doing it. So, and it also becomes a new normal, which is cool.
Yeah, and that's a great point. We have the Boys in Motion Strava Club. Everybody is welcome to join that. It's a great group of like-minded athletes, or boys, we'll call ourselves, who are all training, having fun, hyping each other up, and really sharing our journey as we dive deeper and deeper into sport. So yeah, make sure, I think it'll be available. There will be a link in the Spotify show notes, or if you go to any of our socials, you can message us and we'll send you a link. But definitely something to check out. We'd love to see kind of what everybody's up to and what your aspirations are in sport. It was really cool. Just today, we got a message from a friend who was kind of going from couch to half marathon. He has the aspiration to start pushing the limit, and I saw he went out on a
Shout
3K
out.
today, which was, yeah, it's
Love to
super
see it.
inspiring. Yeah.
That's what it is. It's just contagious. That's what I love about it. Just one person after another. You're just picking them in. You're bringing them into the contagion. You just can't stop once you
The
start.
run virus, baby.
It's the virus, baby.
You
It's the
gotta get
BIM. It's the BIM
love it.
virus.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. Like, when he messaged us, it immediately prompted me to be like, shit, I want to run a half marathon this year. Let's find an event together. And now it looks like we might have plans to do so. So even if you're at the other end of the spectrum, beginning the sport, there's added value to even the more experienced runners who are happy to run an event with you. So reach out to your friends, find somebody who's either at your level or who's close to you who loves running. It's a great community, and everybody just wants more runners at the end of the day. It's super fun. So, yeah. So let's move on to, I think, our favorite segment, the hot take of the week. What do you got for us?
Hot take of the week. Is this me or does anyone else have a hot take?
I think hot take of the week for week 2 needs to come from you.
All right. I was pondering on this idea based on the challenge I got from last pod was the leg shave. So it's a hot, maybe it's a hot topic, not really a take, but I have a question. What do you shave up to? Is it like a nice ankle to knee? Is it ankle to hip? Is it ankle to bone? What are you looking at?
I think we might have to get a poll going.
Yeah, we have
Because
to get a poll because I'm thinking I'm gonna be swimming in these like 3-inch shorts. Am I pulling up to those shorts? Am I going further? Am I going past? What do I do? I'm conflicted.
So I can share my 2 cents. I think it depends. So I think either way, you go all the way to the ankle. Like, you're not going to go
Yeah,
mid calf just because you're wearing socks half the time. That is belligerent.
Or sleeves, Brian's favorite thing.
they look like shit.
I will die with that as the quote on my gravestone.
So yeah, ankle down. But what? How high up do I go?
So
Do I pick my shortest short and just put a Sharpie line and ask the boss to shave it up or what?
I think you shave your whole leg all the way up
To the hip.
to
The
to
hip bone.
essentially the hip. Yeah.
You know how long that's going to take?
Believe me, it is a process. That first time is a process, and you don't really realize how much hair there is. And I'm not really a hairy person, but I was blown away at how long it took.
Oh, I'm a hairy dude, so that's going to take a while.
I mean, that's just higher ROI. The more hair you got, the more gains you have.
That is true. So yeah, I think that's my plan. I'm going to train in resistance up until my first race. Week of the race, maybe I'll do one leg at a time. Like do one leg, next day I do the next, you know? Break it up. Break it up just like a long training day. Just break up the blocks there.
That's a great idea because I did it with an electronic razor the first time.
Died.
And it died after the first leg, so I was walking around for one day with one leg shaved, the other just completely normal. So it happens.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna do that then. So yeah, that's my hot item of the week. I need a poll though. What do you guys think?
Oh, we can definitely get a poll. We can
Ankle,
definitely get a
knee.
poll. I
ankle, knee,
agree
or
with
hip?
Brian, just for the record. I think you should just your whole leg.
Oh, that's gonna be such a nightmare.
What device do you use? I'm really interested in exploring Nair. Have either of you ever tried to use Nair?
Nair it up? No, I have an electric trimmer. I was just gonna do.
I have I think it's like a wall peanut. It's electric trimmer, but plugged in so that I don't have the dying issue. So I'm not actually fully. I mean, I'm running, so I don't need the full aero gains. Single sport athlete and all. But I just go no attachment, just straight on the leg, and I find that's pretty good.
Just
Pretty
raw.
quick. Yeah.
Just raw. No shaving cream.
No. Well, no,
What
it's an electric trimmer. It's not
What
like
about-
you know.
What about aftershave?
No, I don't need that. I'll just, I guess, maybe some lotion or something, just to,
Okay.
Yeah,
Move
I
it
do
up
put
a little
lotion
bit.
on after.
Okay. True. I'll put some moisturizer. Keep it moist.
When you are doing this, are you standing in the shower, Andrew? That's typically where I am. I just want to make sure that's...
So, mine is all just in the bathroom, like not in the bathtub, but then I'll just like come in with the vacuum right after and just clean it up. That's like
That is nice.
It's just, and then it's not like wet in the bathtub. That's like my pro move, but either works.
Injury prevention. You got to make sure you don't
Yeah.
slip.
Oh,
Can't slip in the
baby,
tub.
That would not be nice. Slipping while shaving. Oof.
You don't want to cut anything either.
Yeah, there's some dangerous parts there. Okay, it's been an exciting week of pro events. We had you guys, I saw you chatting about the T100. We also had the Canadian champs on the bike. Michael Woods was the Canadian 2024 National Road Racing Champion. It's the first time in his career that he's taken that, which is really, really cool. And the TT on the men's side was won by kind of the same team, Israel Premier Tech, with an academy like junior racer there. So some pretty cool stuff. He's 27 years old, the TT racer. He posted a time of 41 minutes and 9 seconds for a 34-kilometer course, which is just absurd, the speed
That's
that he's
crazy.
going. Like that's got to be up and
Rocket
around
ship.
50 kilometers an hour on the TT bike, and he beat the nearest competitor by almost 2 minutes. Just outrageous.
That's crazy. Absolute rocket ship kind of guy right there.
Yeah.
And we have I got to give a big shout out to Paula, big Canadian TT champ on the women's side. Goes in, races that on the Friday, I guess afternoon, goes to Tremblant Pro Series, Ironman Pro Series 70.3, destroys into that as well. So she's got a back-to-back champ.
She won
And
both
just-
events?
Yeah, she won the TT Canadian champ, and then she came in, won the Ironman 70.3 Pro
That's amazing.
on the female side. Like, that was nutty.
Pretty crazy, especially the weather. The weather
Oh,
at Mont Tremblant was like, it just looked so awful.
I think it was 75 mil of rain within like a couple hours.
Wow.
Like, it was
Yeah.
brutal.
And
They
yeah,
were
they shortened the swim.
yeah, they shortened the swim. The crazy gusts of wind too, over 50 kilometers an hour gust of winds. Like I can't believe they went through with that. But
That's insane. I was talking to Kyle on Strava who raced the 74 was the 70.3, and he
yeah,
said like on the TT bike some of those descents were just so sketchy. He's riding the brakes the whole time. So I mean anybody like Kyle, we were chatting about this. He said no matter what, if he does another 70.3, the PR is there, right?
it's
Because
gonna be
pretty
easy.
much
Exactly.
you can't, those conditions were so bad.
Oh yeah, I did that course last year, and I can't imagine doing it with wind and rain like that. Like that would have been brutal, to be honest. So shout out to all those competitors that finished, and great racing by the pro field on the men and the women's side. Like it was a crazy race for second and third for both fields. It was super cool.
Oh yeah, the
The
sprint
sprint
finishes
finish
were for second
uphill
and third were crazy.
on both
Especially
sides.
yeah, going down the hill right at the end
Oh,
was just like yeah, they were giving it. I especially after San Fran and now these, I'm just like this the middle distance sprint finishes are so nice.
they're nice,
Like
and that's
it's
what people tune in for those. Literally,
yeah,
like they watch that. But I realize they make their attack on the way up the hill and then just explode on the way out, like the way
yeah.
downhill. It was nice,
But yeah,
but that was
tip
some
the cat for our boy, Mister
Alex.
No Limits.
No limits. Lionel Sanders with the win. Did you see his post-race interview? It was belligerent.
Oh yeah,
He goes, I ate too much. I was either gonna puke or go to the bathroom, and then they like cut the interview.
yeah. He was
No,
about
he
to
was.
explode.
Yeah, he killed it. That
It's
was
good to know that those struggles happen at the pro level too, because I think anybody at the beginner level like
yeah.
has the same thing. I know after the full marathon, I was ready to vomit. It was terrible,
True. You had
right?
alert in the eyes. Yeah, you had the lizard was about to come out of you.
Yeah. So also some exciting stuff on the cycling front. 1 week from now, we will be in Tour de France race season.
Oh,
So the first stage is on Saturday, June 29th. It's going to be really, really exciting this year. Tadej Pogacar, who's just come off his Giro d'Italia win, seems to be the strongest GC contender. But Jonas Vingegaard, last year's winner and the winner from the year before as well, is healthy enough to be racing. And
they're back.
his teammate Wout van Aert, who also crashed earlier in the season, will be racing. So Visma
Let's
Lease a
go.
Bike could put up a fight against Tadej Pogacar. So that'll be
That's going to
interesting.
be interesting. And how do you say the name again? It's not Jumbo Visma.
So it's not Jumbo Vispa, it's Lease a Bike.
Yeah,
Can
downgrade on
you?
the name for sure.
Oh, can you lease a bike off of them at least, or what?
I have no idea, but Jumbo Visma was nice.
I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was much nicer, but I'm pulling for Jonas.
Same. That's
I
fine.
love him.
Yeah, I love watching Pogacar race. I think he makes cycling so exciting, but I think that battle head to head, I really expect it to be good, and I hope we get a treat. But there are some other contenders to look out for. I'll just name some names. Primoz Roglic from Bora Hansgrove. You also have Remco Evenepoel, I believe, from Soudal Quickstep. And lastly, Carlo Rodriguez, who was just announced for the Ineos Grenadiers. So some heavy hitters. It'll be exciting, and I'm sure we'll kind of track. I heard we might have Mark on the pod for some quick rundowns of what's happening in the Tour de France these
Oh,
next
he's
few
he's
weeks.
gonna follow it. Nice.
He's
We
gonna
might need to
follow
do
it.
weekly recaps. That'd be
Yeah,
fun.
I
Yeah.
like that.
I'm hoping we have a nice GC fight because it was great to watch during the Giro, but it wasn't a fight.
It was just him.
I want
Yeah.
a real good GC fight. It's just
Yeah.
it makes it more interesting.
Yes, I'm excited.
So yeah, that kind of closes us off for today. What is very interesting is what's coming next week. We're going to be talking pretty much the same format of episode, but for cycling, how to get into the sport, what it costs, because that's a big thing, big difference between running and cycling, is cycling does have more upfront costs to get in. You've got to make a few big purchases. I've just been supporting my friend Sean, who recently bought a used bike, created a list of everything he's got to go kind of from a casual cyclist, somebody who's into road biking. So we'll break that down
Through that, yeah, that'll
and
be
have a great
interesting.
conversation about, the ins and outs of cycling next week.
I'm in. Count me in.
I love it. I love dipping my toe in a second sport,
Oh, we'll
trying
see.
something new.
And then Andrew, if you keep tuning in, you might be able to hear about a third sport that they call.
I don't know. I'm a certified sinker.
You're a land only athlete, eh?
Oh yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
two-trick pony.
Okay,
Yeah.
I like that. We're evolving,
Yeah.
as the time goes.
Yeah. But no fins on this guy.
Well,
Not
what I'm
yet.
excited for is while my time in Ottawa is coming to an end, Andrew and I might have a ride in the calendar on Sunday.
I'm so jealous. I'm gonna be doing some island loops, but I'm so jealous I can't be joining the boys going back to Niagara, throwing it back.
Well, that's
I
it.
love it.
Sorry, go ahead.
I love it. I'll have some stuff to actually talk about when it comes to cycling. I got to start this training one of these days. So
Yeah, we got what, 2 weeks until the BIM trip?
I think three.
yes,
Three,
I think
yeah,
3 weeks. But that's just enough time to kind of get some more miles
Some
on the
legs
legs,
under,
make
yeah.
sure that the second day of that 330 kilometers, which I calculated, it's close to 330. And
nice.
bouncing back on day 2 to make sure you're not too tired to keep pushing the watts.
I might ask the boys if they want to do a brick run if we don't have the keys to the Airbnb yet.
I like the idea of that day 1 brick run.
I like that.
Yeah.
don't got to tell me twice.
Oh, bring the vapor flies. We'll see you then.
All right. Well, thank you very much for listening to the Boys in Motion podcast. This has been episode 2. We're excited to have you on this journey. Follow us on socials. All our links are down below. Join our Strava club. We'd be happy to give you some kudos on all your activities. And we're looking forward to speaking with you real soon.
See you later, folks.